Hello and welcome to Default Assault, where we take on everything by default. I am your host, Demosthenes, and with me today, as always, is Mr. Kyle Nash. How's it going, Kyle?
What's going on, fools? You better get your shoes. You better get your booties on. It's not cold outside. It's nostalgia time. It's about to get dangerous.
In the world of reboots, they just announced that Animaniacs is coming back with a full 2 new seasons coming out in about 2020 on Hulu. And with the recent success of the DuckTales reboot on Disney XD, we just thought, what other 90s animated cartoon properties would be rife for remake? Which ones would we want to see come back? And unlike the controversy surrounding the Animaniacs reboot, where supposedly the original creative team and writers haven't been invited back, we'd like to see these cartoons come back with their original creative team.
That's right. Hey, listen, if they can bring back Roseanne with the original cast, including 2 Beckys, why the hell can't they bring back their writers? I'm just saying, Demos. I'm just saying. I'm not even a country music fan, but seeing the debut of Bubba Boo Bo Bob Brain is really... That's right. Callbacks, shout-outs, jokes revolving around Pinky and the Brain. That's the kind of smack you get here on Default Assault. Boom.
So we're going to talk about the top 3 that we'd like to see come back in their purest forms. And just by chance, Kyle and I sat down and we individually came up with our top 3, only to discover that we had the exact same freaking top 3. The 90s were full of awesome cartoons. Now, we're not going to talk about anything that's been rebooted already, and we're not going to talk about some of the superhero animated films because they've been already rebooted in many ways.
I was also careful to avoid things that were in themselves reboots, right? Because technically speaking, the New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, totally a reboot in and of itself, right? I mean, this goes back to the days where they had Gopher and stuff in the blustery day, and so that to me qualifies as a reboot. Not my best impression, by the way, but it's really hard to put S in there.
I think you're being a little hard on yourself. We can now add to your
repertoire.
To your incredible repertoire. Marlon Brando as the Godfather, Ron Weasley, and the Gopher from Winnie the Pooh. I mean, that's an accomplishment.
I know. And I said I wanted to make you part of my underworld, but digging holes underneath the ground is kind of ridiculous. Anyways.
But remember, he's on the book. So anyway. So the first one that comes to mind is an odd one. Not a lot of people remember this, but I thought it had a pretty fun premise, and its voice cast was almost second to none. And that's Mighty Max, which ran from 1993 to 1994, 2 seasons. And for those that don't remember, it was about a young boy, the chosen one. It's always the chosen one with these shows, who is sent a magical cap that can instantly transport him across space and time. He teams up with a big dude, badass named Norman.
Don't front on Normie, dude.
Norman was the epitome of machismo back in the...
Bro, like, I'm serious. There should have been a movie, Mighty Max, and Arnold Schwarzenegger should have played Norman. Tell me I'm wrong.
Norman was also, I liked how they figured in that he was he was ageless and he was the prototype for Thor and Hercules along mythology. He was a fun character. He got some of the best lines in it, and he was also, I don't know if you're aware of this, he was voiced by Richard Mall, who was best known for his role of Bull on Night Court.
What?
Yeah, the bald-headed guy.
Oh my God! Hold on. I gotta. I don't have the broom. I gotta scrape brains off the ceiling. You just blew my mind.
So imagine in this animated universe, you have Bull from Night Court battling evil demonic Tim Curry. I mean,
how has there not been a movie of that? If Tim Curry can make moments out of Home Alone 2, can you imagine Bull versus... oh my... missed opportunity, society. Step your game up.
But overall, it was a fun premise, a kick-ass opening theme song, and Yeah, I think it has. It was one of the shows that had quite a bit of potential to continue.
And there was just a whole lot of subtle little things in there that would happen that made the show flow and made the relationship between Cornelius, the magic chicken,
Virgil.
Virgil. Where'd I get Cornelius from? Excuse me, Virgil. Duh. Easily one of the most underrated cartoons of its time, and certainly rife for reboot. I think it would also be progressive enough to still float in this particular climate too, right? His mom was a big part of it as an archaeologist.
Two men and a chicken. I mean,
listen, as even PETA is accounted for here. So there you go. But yeah, listen, man, I thought it was a great show. I didn't find it until it was in syndication. And I don't even know what made me watch it. I'm just like, this is amazing. You know, I was like, hey, where the hell is my Kevin Sorbo Hercules thing? Oh, wait.
It was darker than a lot of the shows at the time. I mean, there were people that were killed. The bad guy wasn't a jokey buffoon. There was an actual threat there. And I think it was controversial at the time because of it.
They even had, it was a little weird that some of the toys they had for it too were like, you know, kind of these, you know, micro monster in my pocket-esque kind of things. And yeah, I can see how that didn't flow nicely.
Whoa, hang on though, because the show was an animated adaptation of the toys. Mighty Max was a spin-off, a boys spin-off of Polly Pocket.
I did not know that, but hey, there is no other evidence of a toy transforming into a success as a movie franchise or a show franchise. I'm glad you corrected me on that. And there's more than meets the eye here. And I just don't know another instance where this has been successful.
So bring back Mighty Max.
I'll tell you what, if you're a fan of 90s cartoons and you're a fan of Star Trek, The Next Generation, you already love Gargoyles. A lot of the voice talent happening to be, members of the Next Gen cast. Deanna Troi was one of the main antagonists. That's right. I called Demona an antagonist. Deal with it. Another main antagonist also voiced by
Jonathan Frakes.
Jonathan Frakes. Thank you. And there's, I believe, one of your main guys there too is also voiced by Worf. And dude, if you don't know Keith David's voice by now, you're doing it wrong as the indomitable Goliath. And the whole team being named, the gimmick being they're all named after New York boroughs and places, because that's where they were displaced to. I thought gave it a charm that was easy to remember the characters' names and actually taught me a few things as some damn Florida kid who didn't know a borough from something that a gopher dug or a beaver, whatever.
This was like an animated Star Trek reunion show.
Who knew Scottish Highland lore was a place where no one would were a place where no man had boldly gone before? Just say, Lee.
Seriously, stop it with these stupid like Star Trek Discovery reboots. Just bring back the cast in Gargoyles. Gargoyles is is the next generation for Star Trek.
Yes, this could be the new Star Trek Discovery instead of the Star Trek disappointment we got. Burn!
When you look back at Disney's television animated career, right, and you go back as far as 1985, with probably the exception of the Wuzzles and arguably Gummy Bears, everything that came after for a short period of time was pretty much a new reboot of an existing property, whether you had Uncle Scrooge and DuckTales or you had Chip and Dale in Rescue Rangers, or the cast of The Jungle Book in a faux World War II epic with TaleSpin. Gargoyles was one of the very first big deviations. And not only was it a very much an original property and an original story, I mean, it kind of reached the heights of brand new comic book lore at the time. Obviously, you had Batman the Animated Series, on the other hand, and arguably it inspired the creation of Gargoyles. But I love the fact that it was this new creative property and that Disney actually took quite a few risks with that. I mean, there's the one episode that, as of over the last few years, has been banned because it was the original version was too badass. It was a gun episode where Broadway accidentally shoots the main female character, and you saw blood and so forth. And
I saw that live.
Yeah, I remember that was a big deal at the time, and it was a very, very strong, at least gun responsibility episode. And to think that at that particular time, TV and TV animation was bold enough to tackle a mature story like that, but we're a little bit more irksome about it today.
Listen, and I like the way that you worded it, gun responsibility. I don't want to get into the whole gun control debate, but at the very least, whether you're for or against it, people knowing the difference and how to handle a weapon and the fact that it's dangerous and can do that is a message that's good for any kid. I think it's a great thing that they did there. And bro, if you're going to mention music in connection to Mighty Mask, dude, you got to talk about the Gargoyles theme.
I wouldn't play it while I'm working out. I would play it right before I work out because that's going to get you pumped.
That's legit. Maybe while you're working out, if you go double time, who knows?
Now, it did run for 3 seasons between 94 and 97. The 3rd season, which aired on ABC, The Goliath Chronicles, has been disowned by the show creators. And I also agree that it wasn't to the same level of quality as what came before it. But those first 2 seasons were excellent. I love how they worked in the Shakespearean elements. I loved how they work in Arthurian legend. They added all this with a twist. It was subtly educational in its own way. It was just overall a very powerful show. And number 1, now this ties a little bit closer towards the DuckTales reboot. And with the success of the DuckTales reboot, I would not be surprised if this comes along next. And I have reason to state that, which I'll get to in a moment. But it is, say it, Kyle.
Let's get dangerous.
Darkwing Duck. My God. Personally, how can this show was tailor-made for me. It was a combination of the Disney Ducks with James Bond and Batman. How can you not love it?
I never really thought of it that way, but okay.
And then you have Launchpad McQuack in there, who is kind of like the DuckTales avatar for Indiana Jones. I mean, it's a little bit of everything that I love. So tell me, Kyle, why did you like Darkwing Duck, and why do you want to see it come back?
I don't know what it is, but like it was the first riff on superhero stuff that I had seen, as a kid. And they were just running gags and new stuff, both that were amazing. Listen, first of all, I always liked Launchpad and him crashing stuff, and I thought he was cool. But being a one-trick pony like that, and then him kind of just being, oh, look, he's Scrooge McDuck's pilot or whatever, that wasn't going to last. But as Darkwing's sidekick, oddly enough, that fit wonderfully. And they had some very creative episodes from, a guy having a villain that would shrink down buildings to put into a mini golf course to the whole thing with the different agencies that they had going on. Fowl, I believe, being one of the agencies in question, and of course, I think Megaduck was
Megaduck, yeah,
Bizarro version. The villains were great. Quackerjack, Megaduck,
Steelbeak.
Steelbeak was great. I loved Steelbeak. Like, and then my favorite thing of all, like, Gwendolyn, the little girl duck.
Gosalyn.
Excuse me. The little duck. She was annoying at first, but they kind of made her more likable. And I'm like, okay, she kind of grows on you, but nothing beats. If you want the thing for me that shows the awesome of Darkwing Duck in a nutshell, it is the breakfast sequence. And first of all, like, it's his little training session while he cooks his breakfast, and the running gag of forgot the milk is epic. And they even do spin on it and variations throughout the show.
I mean, I like the fact that you bring up, obviously Launchpad was an inspired choice as the comic foil or foul. But Gosalyn, I liked her quite a bit. I agree. There are moments where she was a little bit annoying and obnoxious, but she was far, I thought, much better developed than Huey, Dewey, and Louie on DuckTales, which were pretty much enacted as one entity in and of themselves. Gosalyn.
Wherever Huey, Dewey, and Louie are, that's who and what they are. They're triplets, and they're one.
Yeah. I'm not dissing on Huey, Dewey, and Louie. I do not want that kind of fan backlash because I'd be terrified of what that would look like. But Gosalyn, I like the fact. I mean, she was pluckish. She was a tomboy, but she did come across as more of a realistic young girl that idolized her father.
Once they developed her as an individual instead of a pain in the ass, I'm with you. I think that's when she grew. I'm completely on board.
Mm-hmm. But Darkwing Duck, I mean, yeah, I know there are a lot of elements. I mean, if people say that Gargoyles was Disney's answer to Batman, I think Darkwing Duck is their more organic answer.
Yes.
To Batman, and so they take little inspirations. There are definitely homages, but they spin it and make it something of their own. And the humor, like you said, had a very distinct voice. This was a very sarcastic show, a very hilarious. Darkwing, yes, he was bumbling, and he had his comic moments. He wasn't an idiotic character.
How can you be a foul up and still have great lines like "Let's get dangerous" and "Suck gas, evildoer"? I mean, bro,
he was competent despite his incompetence.
Exactly. He should not be able to exist, and yet he does. Like, you should not have episodes in your canon that expand the range of the triumphant triumph of Darkwing Duck and the invasion of Mr. Banana Brain. These two things should not coexist, and yet they shout out to the fact in an episode that they do.
The show had a lot of fun with the way that he would end up defeating his villains. There was one episode where an entire lawn comes to life and starts attacking him. And he defeats this lawn by bringing on, shepherding a herd of sheep onto the lawn, and they start eating it, and it starts running away.
Well, listen, and I think the way they strike that balance is, I forget the secret agent organization that Darkwing actually works with, but in battling against Fowl, he joins this other organization, and they remind you he's awesome when the main agent, who's a giant grizzly bear for some reason.
A Russian grizzly bear.
Russian grizzly bear, yes. Puts him through a training thing, and he just kills it, but does so comically. It's great. Like, there's one in particular where his job is, the task of the trial is to withstand some sort of trauma, and there's once again, Darkwing Duck stands victor, boom, and he would just keep getting hit, and the Russian would get frustrated, and I triumph here, boom, but they still comically said, "You can't stop him, motherfucker! Take that, giant Russian bear!"
Out of any Disney show that's ever been made, it does, like you said, it has the best rogues gallery by far. I think the only show that comes somewhat close is DuckTales, but at the same time, Darkwing Duck took a lot of the elements from DuckTales, built upon them, and made them even better. Gizmo Duck, I thought, worked a hell of a lot better in Darkwing Duck than he did on DuckTales. He fit much more into the world of Darkwing Duck.
Well, and Darkwing Duck is also still a flawed hero. His ego was a thing, and having to compete with Gizmo Duck was a thing, and I think it was a great gimmick on the show.
It was the Superman-Batman rivalry in animated form.
My God, Demos, I don't have that much brains to put on my ceiling. I never even thought of that.
Now, the first episode of the new DuckTales did make a Saint Canard reference, which was the hometown of Darkwing Duck, and it's been said that Darkwing is going to make an appearance at one point on the DuckTales show. We'll see. I'd love to see Donald Duck and Launchpad reunite with Darkwing. I I think that he lost the last of his brains around the ceiling.
And that is your moment of zen.
That is. Now, I mean, that doesn't count, though. It's not a reboot. A cameo appearance doesn't count. But if it's anything, if there's a chance that it might jumpstart an actual Darkwing reboot, bring it on.
Listen, dude, Game of Thrones ain't till 2019. It's got time. Let's do this.
Yes, I would love to see Darkwing Duck in Game of Thrones.
What happened, because he would just whoop up on everybody already. Like, Jaime Lannister would be screwed battling Darkwing Duck.
Well, that just about does it for this episode of Default Assault. What other 90s properties would you like to see rebooted and brought back in their original form or something new? Let us know in the comments below, and make sure to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, keep checking back for more fun stuff every week right here on Default Assault. Check me out on HilarityByDefault.com for weekly movie reviews and other fun stuff, on Twitter at DefaultHilarity, and on Facebook, Hilarity by Default. Kyle, where can we find you?
That's right, Demos. You guys out there, if you have any other 90s properties, put them in the comments section. The power is yours. Anyways, I'm Kyle Nash. You'll find me as the student of the game on Facebook and on Twitter at the SOTG. And you'll check out my works when I'm writing on NGSCsports.com. You'll see plenty of awesome there for all your sport needs. If you happen to like sports ball, things like that, yay sports. Boom, NGSC Sports.
And remember that life is hilarious by default, especially when it's getting dangerous.